You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America. This is our political disruptor segment. And joining us now, Chris Taylor. Chris is a Republican running for Congress in the 1st District in Arizona. He's a combat veteran of Afghanistan, where he served with the U.S. Army Special Ops. He's currently a certified firefighter and city councilman. As a 6th-generation resident of the Gila Valley, Chris understands the desires and needs of rural Arizonians. 6 generations. That's like Barry Goldwater, right, for heaven's sake. Hey, Chris, great to have you with us, man.
Hey, John, it's great to be with you.
Tell us about your campaign in Arizona's first CD.
Well, so Arizona's 1st congressional district is one of the largest in the entire country. It goes all the way from the Utah border all the way down to about 80 miles from the Mexican border in Arizona, and it's bigger than the state of Pennsylvania. And so it will be broken up probably in the next redistricting, but right now it's actually a Republican district +2, but a Republican hasn't won the district since the 2012 redistricting. And so we're going to be the first Republicans to do that, and we're going to provide real rural representation because we haven't had that in a really long time.
So, look, tell me about the district, and it's obviously who's the incumbent in there now, and how much did they win by in 2018?
So his name is Tom O'Halloran. He's a Democrat. He actually was a Republican when he was in the state legislature, and he switched to be a Democrat to basically get elected in this district. It's a very diverse district. It's, you have communities as diverse as Flagstaff and Sedona, all the way down to Casa Grande, and where I live in the Gila Valley, Safford, and so it's very diverse. There's a lot of swing votes. There's a lot of swing voters, and so what the Republicans always fail to do is nominate a candidate that can actually win a general election, and so hopefully we'll change that this time.
What is it?
So Tom O'Halloran won, I think, by maybe 20,000 votes last time.
This was 2018 during kind of the mini wave. You elected Kirsten Sinema there. She won the U.S. Senate race, so it was hotly contested. But tell us about your district when you say if you get the nomination, you can win. How are you going to turn around? What is different about Chris Taylor that's going to turn around 20,000 votes, or actually 10,000 votes?
Well, I think that with my experience as a combat veteran in the United States Army Special Operations Command, as my experience as a firefighter, just a blue-collar guy who can relate to all of the regular working-class voters in this district. And we haven't had somebody who can really appeal to swing voters, to conservatives, to even conservative-leaning Democrats. And so I think that with that experience and with my message, really, it's the message that is important, that we haven't had real rural representation in a very long time. We haven't had somebody who has roots in the district like I do, who knows the district, who knows the people, who knows what we need, because it's the same needs that I have.
Right.
You always have politicians come and tell you kind of what you want to hear, but when they're not really one of you, you know that when they go to Washington, they're going to do the exact opposite, and they're not going to have your best interest at heart. And so we're gonna have the right message. We're going to have the right ground game on the ground. We're going to have the right resources and network behind us, and we're going to take back this district.
John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America. We're in our disruptor segment. A political disruptor, Chris Taylor, Republican running for U.S. Congress, Arizona, CD-1. That is the 1st congressional district there. He thinks he can win. He's a combat veteran from Afghanistan. Chris, when you're knocking on doors and talking to voters about President Trump in your district, no holds barred, what are they saying?
Well, and this is something that's kind of been surprising to me. I don't just go to Republican houses. I go to independent houses. I go to Democrat houses because I don't want to just write off a whole group of people. And pretty much everybody says the same thing, that look, President Trump has followed through on his biggest promises. He has turned this economy around. We have a roaring economy. He's done some great things like renegotiating NAFTA. His other policies have led to historic economic boom. His pro-growth policies are unleashing economic growth and providing opportunities for citizens across the country and across Arizona's CD-1. He's also rolling back costly regulations that burdened the hardworking Americans and stifled innovation. And so they all say that, look, we wish that maybe his tone was different at times. Maybe he could be more of a statesman at times. But at this point in the history of America, they really think that he was who was supposed to be there. And he's following through on all of these promises that he's made. He's restoring American strength around the world. And so they're looking past some of those things that the media just wants to always focus on. And the media doesn't really get it why people are supporting him. And so I do. When I go to all these houses, they say the same thing, and they're supporting him.
All right, so let me get this straight. Chris Taylor, running for Congress, Republican in Arizona, in the 1st District, rural area. So you're knocking on doors, you're meeting with Democrats and independents. Obviously, the president comes up, you're running with him. You'll be under him on the ballot in 2020. I think you had a Senate race there too, right? McSally's
yes, we do.
Running for Senate. So you got that going on. And it seems like what you're telling me is that people that normally Democrats or independents are telling you in their living rooms that they're supportive of Trump, right?
Yes, and actually this is one of the only districts that President Trump won where a Democrat also won the congressional seat. And so, these are hardworking Americans who really see the difference in the economy, the difference in the jobs number and the low unemployment number that we see. They're not stupid. And I think that, yes, they wish President Trump acted a different way sometimes, but when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of what he's accomplishing, they're willing to look past that. And they don't want handouts. They don't want free stuff, free things for everybody. That's such a losing message, especially in such a hardworking district like Arizona's CD-1. They want to work. They want to have the dignity and have the good-paying jobs and just want to support their families. And that's what President Trump is representing right now, and where no Democrat that I can tell it represents that.
So, Chris Taylor, you are running in a district in 2016 that President Trump carried, but the Democratic incumbent congressperson won re-election.
Yes.
That's got to be one of the, like you say, one of the few districts in America. So that did that. So if Trump carries it again, what you basically have to do is find a way to get all of Trump's votes, and then you win.
Yep, sounds pretty simple.
Now, do you have challengers in your primary?
Not yet. I don't yet, and I'm wondering why that is. A lot of people think that this district is a lost district. Like I said, we haven't won it since the redistricting, and a lot of people want to hold out and wait and see what the next redistricting does, because most likely in my area it'll be cut in half. It'll cut out the more liberal areas like Sedona and Flagstaff, and maybe some of the Native American areas. But that's such a bad way to look at it. It's not a lost district. It's a Republican district that should be represented by a Republican. And so I don't want to wait for 2 years. I want to go now, and I want to do something that's historic and hasn't been done before in this district. And we're going to work harder than anybody else. We have the network, and we really feel a groundswell of grassroots support. The buzz around the campaign is palpable, and it's because we have the right message and the right background and experience. That's what's needed right now in Washington. The real reason I'm running is because I see such a crisis of leadership in Washington. The chaos and dysfunction is indicative of the level of disrepair that we see in Congress. They don't have our best interest at heart. We keep sending people to Congress who only care about their personal agendas, who only care about what's best for them and not what's best for the people that they represent. One of the things that I learned in combat when I had men's lives in my hands was that when you're a leader, when you are in charge, the people that you lead should come first, always, and your well-being should come last. And in Washington, we see that completely backwards. Mm-hmm. And so I'm hoping to go and join like-minded people and just inspire them to think differently, to get out of this rut of business as usual that we see in Washington, and just get things done for the American people. There's so many issues that we face that should not be partisan at all. The illegal immigration, the border, the way that our veterans are not being cared for, health care, education, all of these things should not be partisan issues, but they are because of the nasty hyper-partisanship that we see in Washington. We need real leaders to go and take care of these issues for the American people.
I tell you what, I love your attitude, and I think you got a shot in this race. We're chatting with Chris Taylor in our Disruptor political segment. He's a Republican running for Congress in Arizona's 1st Congressional District. That's rural Arizona. Also, this is a district carried by President Trump in 2016. He's going to carry it again in 2020, only bigger, and this guy's got a shot. Chris, how are you doing on raising money? How's your fundraising going?
Well, so today is yesterday was the deadline. We really were in for about 2 weeks of fundraising, and we're close to 20,000, and that's without any formal, fundraising help or any list or anything like that. That's just people donating $5, $10 here and there, and so when we actually have a real quarter to go on next filing deadline, I think we're going to be somewhere around 250,000, and so we're seeing that support come in, and it's hard in such a rural place down at the southern end of the district, a small town. Nobody's ever really heard of me before, and so there is a little bit of a barrier there to try to get my name out there, but we're doing that, and so if we would have had a little bit more time than 2 weeks into the thing, and I think that there will be people probably announced today, because that's the kind of political calculation that typical politicians do. They don't want to come into a middle of a fundraising quarter so they look weak. That's something that we just didn't even think about or care about, because I'm not a typical politician. And so you'll hear people say, oh, well, he didn't raise that much money in his first quarter. We really had 2 weeks. Wait till next quarter, and we'll blow everybody away.
What a bunch of nonsense. I love your attitude. Look, here's the thing. This guy can win. Okay, just based on this conversation and the numbers there, he can actually win this race. He's a combat veteran from Afghanistan. He's a firefighter. He's been on city council. He's got a little experience. He's been on the ballot locally a couple times. He's out knocking on doors. Hey, send him a check, man. $15 or $20, $25 goes a long way. Just go to taylorforarizona.com. Look, I know we ask a lot of people for money, including me, right? taylorforarizona.com. But get involved. If you got any friends out there, let them know. taylorforarizona.com. Chris Taylor running what is going to be a very spirited race. I love the fact that you're going door to door, Taylor, and I love the fact that you're talking to independents and Democrats. These people voted for Trump in 2016. He's done a great job. So I would expect him to win the district bigger in 2020 than he did in 16. If he can just stay with those votes, you got a heck of a shot to win.
I think so, and I think it all comes down to the message and what we're offering. People, like I said, they don't want handouts. They don't want free everything. They want to work, and they want somebody who represents them, who is truly one of them, a working class person who has roots in the district, has been here. My family's been here for 6 generations. They helped settle the valley that I live in. I think that they're ready to try something different. They don't want the typical politicians. That's why Donald Trump won, and that's why he's going to win again. There's nobody on the Democrat side who has that message, has that right message especially for this district and the blue-collar people that we are.
All right. Great job, I got to tell you, man. Fabulous job. I'm excited about your race, Chris. Stay in touch with Leslie. Leslie, be sure we get him on a regular basis so we can keep track. This is one of those races we really have to target. This is going to be an upset. You're going to win this race, man. You're going to win this race.
Yeah, I really think so. I really appreciate you reaching out to have me on. I really appreciate that.
Well, you got to come back. You got to keep us updated. All the disruptors we have on, trying to change things. We want to keep with them, but just based on everything you've said and just your interview, your demeanor, and your work ethic, I think you're going to win this race. You just need to raise some money. Go to TaylorForArizona.com. This guy's got a shot. I mean, he could be the guy that puts the Republicans over the top in 2020 so that Trump wins, and he's got a Republican Congress, and not those weasels like Paul Ryan had last time, right? But actually people like Chris Taylor that are going to fight for him and get things done. Thanks for being with us, man. All right, Chris Taylor, trying to disrupt things in Arizona. John Fredericks Radio Network.